Hello YouTube, this is Hunter Surge with day 6 of Firestorm News. So as always, we're going to be quickly going over the collection number stuff because there's some relevant information here once again. So, Majesty through the Majesty line and the Volt Tempest line have both been added here. We talked about the Majesty line before because that tells us that there's only a total of 8 Fire Elestrals in the set. With the Volt Tempest line, we can see that we're looking at 9 Elestrals for water. So the focus in Elestral count that Fire and Wind get is pretty equal to what they're getting, what Water and Thunder are getting. Because in Thunder, we can see that Thunder is getting, this is 11 total. Quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if some of that Thunder stuff actually belongs to a different archetype or something. Would not be super shocking. But none of the champions we've had confirmed would fit that category. But it could be something like Cedar Soar. A situation like that could pop up, and it's actually support for another element. So yeah, we're getting 8 Water Elestrals, 11 Thunder Elestrals, and if we assume that Earthscope is very early in the start of Frost, then Wind would be getting 5, 9, 10. Though it might not be. We'll talk about that a bit later. And then Panelits we have down here at 71, leaving very little room after it for Omni and Earth Runes. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. Because today's reveals are more Champions of Artemis from Lunar. They're getting a total of 4 cards, which is very surprising. I thought that the off-focus Champions decks would only be getting 1 or 2 champs in this set, but no, we have a whole 4 of these in Lunar. So first up, we have Werepup Champion of Artemis. It's a 3/2, same as original Werepup. You can special send it during your main phase into Lycavoid from your hand or deck if an opponent has at least 2 suppressed cards. When this Werepup is destroyed in battle, you can suppress a card on your opponent's field until the next turn. This double suppression requirement that we continually see on these Artemis-related cards, on these suppression support cards in Lunar, like we saw it on Necrolith, for example, are really annoying because they're really hard to get all 9. Because, you can't really expect your opponent to have multiple guys so that you can just flip Dense Fog and suppress them all. That's a very situational scenario. So what you're typically going to have to do is you're going to have to do something like Artemis one thing, Artemis a Divine or Stadium if they even have one, and then New Moon using only its first effect to suppress their Elestral on the field or something like that. It's very clunky, very expensive. And it's just not going to work out very well, and we need really, really strong payoffs for that to be worthwhile. And this really isn't that. It's not so strong a payoff that feels super worthwhile. Necrolith definitely isn't quite there because it's just going to be dead in your hands so often. You need really, really, really explosive payoffs for that requirement to be worth it. We need something on the quality of what we're seeing with Gryffuse and Gryffuse and Volt Tempest and Majesty. We need very explosive plays on that level for this double suppression requirement to be really, really worth it, because it takes a lot to get that on. So I'm not a big fan of this Werepup. It also suppresses something for the turn when it dies in battle, but that's only going to be for the battle phase. There's only so much you can do with that. You can always do that with Spectaris and Gorgon's Gaze. So this isn't super worthwhile. It doesn't even actually synergize with Lycavoid, as we'll see in a moment. So then we have Lycavoid Champion of Artemis. So this is 6/5 to Lunar. When you cast this Lycavoid, you can special cast any number of Werepup from your deck with Lunar suppressed. So if you recall yesterday, Pandalins talked about one of its conditions was when an Elestral entered the field from either player suppressed. So this is how that's going to happen. It's not some kind of floodgate thing. It is, okay, there will be Lunar effects where you bring in your thing suppressed. which is annoying because if we look back over here at Mr. Rare Pup only counts your opponent's suppressed cards. Likewise, if we look back at Moonrise, Necrolith is the same. Necrolith only counts your opponent's suppressed cards. This idea would have been a really good way to bring those kinds of conditions online more reliably. But it can't, because they only count your opponent's cards. It's very frustrating that it was made this way. Like, very, very frustrating design. Like, so close to being something more real. But that effect is still really good. If you destroy Suppress Celestial on your field, during the main phase, you can destroy Suppress Celestial on your field. If you do destroy Suppress Celestial on your opponent's field. So the idea would be like, one of your Werepups survives, or you do this in the main phase using Champion Werepup, and then you go Artemis, you go like, something is already suppressed, you pop, or you go like on the next turn after one of your Werepups survived, because they're suppressed permanently as far as we can tell. You go Artemis, suppress something, and then you go pop. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a decent enough payoff. Probably not how this card is going to be used. How this card will probably be used is you just slide in over OG Lycavoid in Lunar aggro. Because let's think about what this card represents in that deck. It is 5 defense, which means 1, it no longer dies to Cryoblast. 2, it no longer dies to Eddy. 3, if they Tsunami you, a 5 still needs a supportive Zeus to get over you. So, like, it does require them to effectively be able to hit 6 attack to be able to get over you. Whether that be with the support of Zeus or Demeter, or by just having a guy that big. It makes it Lycavoid a lot more resilient. The counter rune and piercing part of original Lycavoid was cool when it came up, but because a lot of the time you would have to pop the full moon during your opponent's turn, because Werepup is so small and your opponent can just swing over it, it meant that you very often were not getting that effect because it's only for the turn. This is an effect that you will always get. You will always be able to just swarm the board with these Werepups every time you special ascend into the Lycavoid. Very, very cool. Like, it's just a much more reliably strong payoff for that whole engine. Very, very strong. Why are we making the best deck better? The other really cool thing about it is that after you've special ascended into Lycavoid, the Werepups generally are just like dead cards. They don't really do anything anymore. So with this, we're now like, okay, we don't need, we're good. We don't have them in our deck anymore. We can't draw them anymore. We're just going to draw good cards, and we don't have a risk of drawing into Werepup, which isn't going to do anything. Very cool. Like this card a lot. It is very, very strong. Also, like, that second effect could occasionally come up in the context of Lunar aggro. You can go, like, for example, like, you just have a Gorgon's Gaze lying around. You go, okay, I want to get rid of this thing, and I have a Werepup still on my board, so I'm going to flip Gorgon's Gaze, suppress that card, and then I'm going to go Lycavoid, pop. It doesn't even target, so this is a way for the deck to get rid of non-targetable assholes like Volt Tempest and Chronodial. Very cool. Yeah, actually, the more I think, no, but you have to target with the suppression card, so that doesn't actually work out unless you. But you can, like, always, like, that makes, like, Dense Fog a more reliable side in. So you side in, you can, like, side into Dense Fog and go Dense Fog, suppress your Volt Tempest or suppress your Chronodial. And now I go like Void pop. Also, like, a way for the deck to just straight up pop Blistrixes. Like, lots of cool stuff that this card does enable. Definitely makes Lunar aggro stronger, but it is looking like it does make it more in theme for Lunar. And considering that these upcoming decks look very strong, look very capable of dealing with 5s, maybe the deck will need a bit of a boost. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. But this card is definitely very strong, and will probably slot in to Lunar aggro. Sorry, I paused for a moment there because I thought I wasn't actually recording. But yeah, we'll probably slot into Lunar aggro in the exact slot where original Lycavoid is right now. Just straight up replace it. Very, very good card. Then we have the Pandolence, that full frontage revealed yesterday. And lastly, we have Specteris, Champion of Artemis. Whatever. This is a holo rare. This is a 4/2, 1 Lunar. And it can be special cast from your hand with Lunar if an opponent has at least one suppressed card. So, big thing, right out the gate, only requires one suppressed card. Very nice. I wish it counted both fields. Like, I really want these types of effects to start counting both fields. Because if we're going to do this whole, like, bringing your own thing suppressed, it would be really cool if that can actually enable our payoffs. It doesn't enable Lycavoid's payoff, but I would like it to enable some more payoffs. That would be very nice. The really cool thing about this card, I think, is that it enables, like, a line where you go, like, Artemis, suppress an Elestral, then you cast out Specteris, and then you can ascend that Specteris into the Necrolith, and you pop whatever you suppressed with Artemis. That's, like, a pretty specific combo. But, like, this Specteris is also just, like, a way bigger Tadpuff, like, super enabling for any 2-cost Lunar you really want to be using. Very cool card. Like, this is definitely the first thing I've seen out of this whole, like, suppression archetype that's made me go, okay, this is, like, a payoff that's, like, probably worth using. This actually seems pretty good. First step in the right direction. First one that's like, okay, the payoff we're getting for this is pretty worthwhile for what we have to put into it. Because all we have to put into it is like an Artemis. Just have an Artemis on the field, suppress something, we go into Specteris. If it's a Galaxy, you go, okay. Galaxy or Foamy, you just go, okay, suppress that, drop down the Specteris, drop down a normal cast, and I can swing over it while it's also suppressed. Good stuff. I like this card a lot. And definitely deserving of Holo Rare. Lastly, there was a promo reveal. I think this is the LGS promo. I wasn't quite paying attention. But this is Ampharix. We've technically seen Ampharix before, but it was pretty blurry, so it's good to like get full confirmation of what the card does. I think before we thought the first effect disenchanted from the field, not from Hestia specifically. So it is an Ampharix, Champion of Hestia, 3/4, 1 fire. You can disenchant a fire from your Hestia in order to add a 1 Spirit Fire Elestral from your Underworld to your hand. And when you ascend this Ampharix during your end phase, you can special cast it from your Underworld with fire. So this is actually pretty cool. I do think that Ampharix is like the best card that the Hestia archetype has gotten so far. Because Ampharix enables like both avenues in which you might use Hestia. By being like a free ascension fodder, it goes like, okay, you get to really profitably use Hestia for quick ascension plays with like Infernax or something like that, or Lavalith. That's pretty cool. And then the other mode is it lets you set up, like, because Hestia's special cast swarming the board thing is very expensive on spirits. So, expensive on cards, sorry. You're very likely to run dry on guys to use for that pretty quickly. So, Ampharix going like, okay, I'm going to get you back a guy from your Underworld so that you can continue to do this, is also pretty strong. Definitely the highest potential card I've seen out of the Hestia package thus far. Like, Medusa has potential, but that's potential in Bears. That's potential in an Ursaden deck, not in a Hestia deck. So yeah, I think this Ampharix is actually pretty cool. Yeah. But also, it's not like the sort of thing that like makes Earth Scout like good, because Earth Scout wants something that like you're gonna normal cast out and be really impactful on the board. And Ampharix isn't that. Ampharix is another thing that you want to special cast out and then pair with something else. So yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. It does make for like really repetitive Kinleo plays, because you can go like, okay, I'm gonna Ampharix, bring back get back Kinleo that I've used earlier, cast out the Kinneo, and just Kinneo forever. Just Kinneo forever. So like this might see some play in Fire Nexus brews that end up using Hestia to like make Kinneo happen more often. So that would be a cool thing to see. But we'll see how that shakes out. Okay, so back to collection numbers. The reason I didn't want to talk about the Lunar numbering right out the gate is because Lycavoid is number 70, Werepup is number 69, and Spectaris is number 72. So these are these 4 slots. Now, it might be safe to assume at this point that like the champions come, considering we've seen this in Fire, Water, Thunder, and Wind. It's probably safe to assume that the champions come first in elements lineup. That might not be the case with the non-focus elements, but we'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. But that is like a lot of the slots for that Lunar is likely to get, because like before the slot where Werepup is, we only have 10 slots separating Earthscout and that Lunar stuff starting. That all of Solar needs to fit into. So like it makes me kind of skeptical that we will see more Lunar stuff ahead of that. So what that means is that like barring more Champions of Artemis, we are likely completely done, almost done for Lunar. Like we have 1 to 2 more slots that can go into, and like if I imagine we're getting at least 1 Earth rune or Omni rune, so that really only gives 1 slot for more Lunar cards to go into. And that means kind of a good thing that Lunar can't get any Ascension lines, and that's kind of good because like Ascension lines are cool, but like what fills out the majority of your guy lineup in a deck is 1 costs. So another standalone 1 cost guy for Lunar as their last potential card in the set is not a bad thing at all. Yeah, and that would also like leave the assumption that Earthscout Champion of Kion is like early in the Frost stuff. However, Earthscout is like a singleton Ascension line guy. Like, so the other Champions of Kion stuff, if there's more in this set, when I first saw this card, I was assuming that like that would be all the Champions of Kion stuff in the set, that the off-focus champions would only get like 1 or 2 cards. But now Artemis has me very much questioning that assumption. So we might want to assume that there's like 2 or 3 more Champions of Kion cards before the Earthscope. So like if that's the case, then we could say like Frost starts at 55, 56, and then Wind gets like 7, 8 cards total. Yeah, like say like a 2-stage line here, and then 1 more thing here, something like that. And then get 1 or 2 more cards after for like 5 to 6. 5 to 6 Frost cards, and that leaves like 6 to 7 slots for Solar to slot into. And yeah, that sounds about right. It is a bit annoying that Frost, Solar, and Lunar seem to be getting like the short end of the stick on the Elestral count compared to Earth, which is getting like 11 slots. But it's fine. It's fine. It's still more than like what frequently was the case in previous sets. So like it's fine. Yeah. Cool reveals today gave us a lot of information about what to expect for the off-focus elements. And that Spectres and Lycavoid are pretty cool. That Lycavoid is definitely going to see play. Like, that card's really strong. Alright, with that said, this is Hunter Surge, signing off.